So what I've got is probably what you've got from your studio session photographing the bulb and cone. It's not my image, it was a student last year or the year before, I can't remember. And she came to me wondering how we can make it look better. What do you notice looking at the cone and the bulb at the minute? Sorry? Right. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Different lighting. The cone's kind of lit from above a bit because you can see the shadows and the ridges under the cones, and the bulb's kind of lit from below because the shadows are above. So if I put these two together, they're not going to make sense. Remember what Eric Johansson said in the video? You know that the lighting must match. You know, in order to make it look photorealistic. So first thing I'm going to do with that bulb is rotate it and turn it round. So I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Rotate 180. And then I'll just check the shadows are on the right side. What's the shadow side of the cone? It's the left in it. What's the shadow side of the bulb? It's probably that side. So again, I'm going to edit, transform, and flip it horizontal, and then I think that's going to work better now. Right, the first thing you want to do is you've probably photographed the bulb and the cone mainly full frame, haven't you? So you want to give yourself a bit of room to work with so that you can fit them both in the one picture. So I'm going to make the canvas bigger to work on. And you do that by going to Image, Canvas Size, and right, these are full res files. So maybe add 1,000 all the way around. So I want to take relative. We can crop again at the ends, but you just want to make sure you've got enough room to play with in your file, and just make sure that dot's in the center. So it's going to add 1,000 pixels kind of evenly round the document. Canvas extension color doesn't really matter. So okay. Alright, it's just giving you a bigger file to work with. So what would be a good way to select these objects and mask them?
Select, I can't remember what it says, you select image or something like that, because they're on a black background, so it
should be easy. Select subject, that one? Select subject. Okay, give that a go and see. Okay, so select, and it's select subject. As you say, if you get something in a plain background, it actually works quite well nowadays. It saves you saves you a lot of time.
If it's contrasting colours though.
Yep.
Object in a white background, yeah.
You always want to zoom in though and really check. So I'm just going to have my navigator open. And just check how even your cutout is. It's looking a wee bit rough. So I think it's a good idea, like with any selection, to go into select and mask first. So select, select and mask. And that way you can modify your selection. So I'm just going to view it on layers. And it's looking a wee bit rough, so I'm going to smooth it slightly. That just, where it goes up and down, it's a bit jagged, that just smooths the line, if you like. And a slight feather, so it doesn't look like a harsh cutout. So about half pixel, 0.5. And the one thing that can really help here, because we're going to be putting it on a different background, is if you tick decontaminate colours. It'll try and take the black out of the edge of that, so it doesn't look as fake when you put it on a different colour. So decontaminate colours, and then I'm going to output that as a new layer with layer mask. Okay, so it's actually made the mask for you. There, going into selecting mask. The bulb might be a bit trickier, it's a bit of a trickier shape, but we'll give it a go. Okay, try the same again, select subject. Right, if I zoom in here, it's not done quite as good a job. You know, there's bits there that it's not picked up on. So, how can I fix them? Quick selection tool? Right, okay. So, quick selection tool is this one here. And if you want to take away from the mask, like you want to take these bits out, you go to minus or press the Option or Alt key, and it will become minus. And put caps lock on. There's something weird going on here. Oh, it's better. Right. Right, so I'm just going to go around this very quickly. Any bits that I can't get, I'll fix in select and mask. I'll just refine. It seems to be struggling with that edge for some reason. Okay, the bit at the top I'm not worried about. I'm not going to use that in my final picture anyway. So, but I'm going to use this wee bit. It seems to be jumping about all over the place. It's not doing a great job, to be honest. It's quick, but it's not always the best tool to have. It's just not as accurate as some of the other selection tools. Like the best one's the pen tool because it's just really accurate. But I'll show you how to use that soon. So, get it more or less right. Okay, so just making sure I've got all the bits out the middle, and then I'm going to take it into select and mask again just to fine tune it. You can see the edges are a wee bit rough there. So in select and mask, you've got your quick selection tool again. And we could try maybe just to fix that. Oh, let's make the entire thing disappear. That's not what I want. Right, back. You've also got this one here, which is your Refine Edge Brush tool. And if you click that and keep the plus just on the outside, that should remove any little bits of black that we've got on the edges. And it's doing a much better job. Just cleaning up those edges. So I'm keeping the wee cross on the brush on the outside. So selecting mask is just really good for this sort of thing, just fine tuning things. Because if you've got a good mask and things look convincing, if you don't, then it just looks like you've roughly cut something out and stuck it together. Okay. Right, I'm not going to waste time in that top bit because I'm not going to use it. Alright, but it's looking not bad overall now. So let's just zoom back out. And again, slight smooth, slight feather, and decontaminate colours just to remove the remnants of that black edge. And output is a new layer with layer mask. Okay, so they're looking not too bad now. So I'm just going to move them and try and line them up, see how they look. So I'm going to put the cone, now I'm going to move that to the top layer. So it's above the bulb. Okay, and the bulb, I'm going to lose this top bit. So how would I do that? How would I remove, like, from that blue bit? I don't even know what that blue bit is, up.
There's a lasso to cut it out.
Right, could do. That's one way to do it. It's on that layer when we've already got a mask. What can you do in a mask to make something disappear and see the layer below? Right, with what colour?
White, no, black.
Right, so black reveals the layer below, white conceals. So I'm just going to get a brush, set it to black, and I'm just going to make sure that mask is selected there, and then I'm just going to paint. So I'm going to make sure my brush is a little bit harder for this. I want a harder edge on the light. Okay, and just zoom in to make sure I'm being accurate. Okay, this top bit I can just totally paint out. So the navigator is really handy just for moving it about and seeing where I am. So right, it's looking not too bad now. Okay, so it's okay. The bulb, I'm just going to resize it and reshape it a little bit to make it maybe look a bit more like an old Mr. Whippy type cone because it's got that kind of shape to it. So I'm going to transform the perspective, make it a little wider at the bottom and a little narrower at the top. It depends on the sort of bulb you use, whether that would work or not. But all I'm going to do is go to Edit, Transform, start with Perspective. So I'm transforming the perspective just to make it narrower at the top. Oh no, it's just doing this thing again. Okay. I don't know what it is, but this latest version of Photoshop doesn't like you transforming things. No, the scratch discs are not full. Alright, we'll leave the transformation just now. I was getting the same message on both the MacBook and the teaching machine on Tuesday, and I don't know why. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just put that in place just now. Let's see if it will even let me do a normal transform scale, just to make it actually fill the cone. Well, let me do that, okay. Alright, so how do you think I might want to add a background to this?
I added that zero layer and just filled it in with colour.
Alright, it's one way to do it, definitely. Or we could just add a solid colour layer. So let's click on that. And that's your adjustment layer at the bottom of the layers panel. And solid colour. That way you can go back and change the colour again and again and again until you get it the way you want it. So let's choose, I don't know, something that kind of works with ice cream. Alright, that'll do. So I'm just picking a colour, clicking OK. And because that colour fill layer is below the cone and the bulb, then it just fills the layer behind. So it's starting to look okay. So there's a few things I could do to make it look more realistic. First of all, I'm just going to add a shadow. And the way to do that is also quite simple. I wouldn't use the drop shadow. You do have drop shadow here on drop shadow. But generally it tends to look pretty fake. It didn't actually do anything either. Yeah, it looks pretty awful when you add a drop shadow, to be honest. So I don't think I would use that. So cancel. The way I make a shadow, and I'll put a video up for this as well, is to select the two objects you have together. So I'm pressing Shift to select the two layers. And then I'm going over here to merge visible. But before pressing merge visible, I hit the Alt or Option key. And what that does is it creates a composite layer out of the two separate things. So then you can select that. So I'm just going to go and select subject again. So it's going to, this time it's selected the entire thing. And in order to make a shadow is, I don't know, probably a lot simpler than you would think. I'm going to go to my gradient tool and I'm going to set that to black to grey. So that'll do it. And all I'm going to do is draw a gradient within that selection. except I want it to be the other way around. So I want it to be black at the bottom, grey at the top. And once I've got that, I can deselect, which is Command D. So what I'm going to do now is just move that shadow below the bulb and the cone, but above our colour fill there. Alright, so now I can go to my move tool and I can put this shadow, whoops, Command Z. I can put this shadow wherever I want it to be. I'm just going to turn off auto select and click on the shadow layer. Right, does that look convincing as a shadow?
No.
Not at all, does it? But watch a couple of steps that will just make this happen. So I'm going to change it from normal to multiply. Okay, first of all, take the opacity down a bit. Okay, and then I'm going to apply a blur. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And I'm going to take this up until the shadow gets soft. And that could be a bit more like a shadow. Depending where you put it, you know, you can have your cone floating off the background, or, you know, ideally you want the shadow to be on the opposite side from where it's lit. Or if you want to tie it to the paper, I'm just going to do a wee transformation of the shadow here. So edit, transform. Let's try a wee rotation first of all. Alright, does that look a bit more convincing as a shadow now? So yeah, you can totally control it. I mean, so that's why you don't need to worry when if your background's not clean or your shadows aren't perfect, because we're faking it anyway. You know, the whole thing about advertising shots is that things look flawless, things look better than reality. So that's it. Does anyone have any questions at all?
I'm going to 101.
Is there any questions you want on the video before I stop recording?
Is that recording your voice as well?
Hopefully.
That's all right. I was just
Right.
checking that
Right, the gradient, right, the gradient's the gradient tool, which is kind of halfway down your toolbar. The other things I would probably do to this are maybe just make the cone a bit warmer. It's just, to me, it's looking a little cold, and I'd maybe duplicate the light bulb one and make it look as if it's got a bit of a glow to it. But otherwise, you know, that's the basics of it. Okay, so I'll stop recording just now.